All right. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot of people out there. I wasn't expecting that. Yes, good day, everyone here in Roanoke, Virginia. My name is Jon Jackson. I am the executive director of Stag Vets Inc. Incorporated, and the founder of Comfort Farms. All right, my story, I served, 11 years in, six combat tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan. I lost a lot of friends along the way. There was a lot of difficulties that came about this because when you join the military, especially after 9/11, you know that you're signing up to go to war. And that's what I did, and I did that 6 times, and I came back. Nobody prepares you for life after war, to be a civilian again. It's really, really tough in doing that because you're so engaged on, closing distance with the enemy. Your whole mindset changes in order to be a war fighter, right? And so I did that, and I served my country valiantly. The difficulties that I had when I came back was being a different person, especially to my family and my friends, because I just knew war. I mean, when you spend a decade overseas, it's just really, really difficult to adjust in that space. So difficult to the point where I remember I was watching my last sunset, and I had a gun in my lap because I became such what I felt was a horrible person to my family and friends because of just my wartime, the things that were going on. I just did not adjust really, really well. And 15 minutes, man, I'm watching the sunset, knew I was going to end it all, knew that I was going to just take my life right there. And my son walked in that room unknowingly because I promised him that we were going to go to B-dubs. And I tell you what, when he walked in, it definitely derailed me from my thought process. And I realized that just a little bit longer, if he would have stayed out, because I didn't play the tape all the way through, what he would have saw in that moment. So I took him out. I sat across from him, and I realized that I have so much more to live for, and I made it my goal to crawl out of this terrible place that I was in to do something, and vowed that I would never, ever, ever let another vet go through the things that I went through without being there for them. And so, thank you. So it was it's a very arduous thing where you're at the bottom of the barrel and you're looking up to find the light, hoping that it's not a train, okay? And really, you have to go through your lumps, you gotta take your licks. But I tell you, man, the universe hears you, the universe sees you, and as long as you keep pushing forward, a lot of answers will be made. All right. So after you get out of war, you're a war fighter, you're doing all these great things, all these amazing things for your country, and you come back, and now you're in this situation as a civilian again. What do you do? Who are you? Me personally, I'm a descendant of enslaved people. I built Comfort Farms, over like 9 years ago, named after my Ranger buddy, Kyle A. Comfort. So I start doing my DNA test, right? Because our westernized system of history, for me, only started at the point of colonization, at the point of slavery. So that was a start. When my DNA test came back, it showed that my ancestors came to Virginia. The first place they came to Virginia in the late 1600s, early 1700s, ironically, to the point of comfort, okay? For me, it was just amazing because I remember I was driving and I had to pull over, and the gravity of the beginning of who I am started to unfold. And what I tracked was that my ancestors came to Virginia and they were all up in the Appalachian Mountains, and they moved down and kind of settled in North Georgia, where the kind of bifurcated from that place. Some went to South Carolina, and others went down the Mississippi Delta into New Orleans, went over to Texas, And then I understood that there was a underground railroad there that led some of my members down into Mexico. So I have spots in that place as well. And so now this, if you're African American or descendants of enslaved folks, it's really, really difficult to kind of pinpoint where you are. Fortunately enough for me, my mom was from Africa. She came from Liberia over to in the late 60s, early 70s, and she because of a coup that was going on up there, and she was a refugee. So I am a son of a refugee that met my father, who's from down in LaGrange, Georgia. He's an old country bumpkin. So I grew up with hillbilly African with an African woman in our household, and our food diversity was insane, okay? I just put it like that. But those things really kind of sparked an interest in me on trying to figure out who I was. So I'm about to tell you a story, right? And all I'm gonna say is all the greatest stories start with, so there I was. Okay. So there I was in Senegal, the land of Kunta Kinte, the Mandinka warriors, following my roots, arriving on this boat with clear, crystal, emerald blue waters. And the villagers have coming down with their drums, and the women and children are singing in jubilee, and they're happy to receive us. We have come home. I felt an overwhelming spirit of complete relaxation. I felt like I belonged in this community. As the drummers are drumming and the dancers are dancing and the children are singing, it just made me feel that I've been missing this my whole entire life. I felt safe, I felt great, and I felt motivated to just continue on. But I was also there to really look at the culture. The culture is so beautiful in Senegal. The food culture, that is, and the seed culture, which I'm gonna get into a little bit later. And as they walked us up the sand, the Senegalese warriors, anybody know about the Senegalese warriors? They've been practicing these Senegalese warrior wrestling for thousands of years. And those are the guys I wanted to see. I mean, these were like big black men, just huge. And no wonder everybody thought they didn't make good slaves, okay? Because these guys are warriors, they're rebels. They don't play that crap. And I wanted to see their wrestling moves, because that's what I wanted to see. And so I get into this place, we eat, we dance, we do all the things, and then the warriors are coming up to actually participate in this, these ancient warrior traditions. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. So the champion of Casamance was there. And I could not wait to get him on film, because I started this new Facebook group, or not Facebook, but this new video log where I do called Roots and Routes, where I travel the world and I talk about the routes and the routes that they take. So when I heard that the champion of Casamance was coming in to actually fight, all the smaller children or exhibition masters have just finished, and I ran over to get my phone and to get my camera to put those things on, to make sure I had new battery, make sure I had all these things, and I was running out. My team was like, John, where are you going? I gotta film the champion of Casamance. And they said, but you're the challenger. What? The challenger? Who said I'm the challenger? And the guys in the thing said, yeah, man, you're about his size, so we just voted that you're gonna fight him. Hell no! Like, what are you doing? And I put my head down and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I'm a United States Army Ranger. Ain't no way in the world I'm gonna like not fight this dude. I might get my butt kicked, but hey, it is what it is. So I took my stuff off, the crowds, the village are happy, and I'm out here and I'm like, all right, man, I'm about to fight this dude, it is what it is. And I go out there, I grab the sand, and I kind of threw it up in the next fashion, and all the children was like, yeah, we got a challenger, and here it is. And I was just like, man, this is gonna be tough on me. And as I start walking out, I kind of noticed the sand was a little bit, the slope of the sand was going down this way. I said, all right, I definitely need to be on the edge of the sand, you know, on the bottom slope of this, just to his momentum going in. And trying to make all these like quick calculations and all these things like I did as a ranger. And he comes out, and I mean, this dude is jacked, you know. I got like dad bod and all this other stuff. And so we're just going in, and they start doing this thing where it's almost like, you know, it's like slapping or whatever it is, but it's more of connection of spirits that they do. And I was doing it all wrong, you know, it was just like crazy. But then we got into a situation where the fight began, and he shot for my right leg. And he almost grabbed it, but I squalled out of that, and he was surprised how fast I was. Dad bod got, do not let this gut, you know, make you think I'm not fast, okay? So I squalled out of that thing, and I threw him to the side, and the crowd went crazy because the fight began. Now I come back and I realize that he likes to shoot from my right leg, so I kind of get up in a kind of like a fighter stance, baiting him in with that leg, and he goes for it again. And then I turn him, I twist him, I put him underneath me, and I threw him off of me, and everybody just went wild because I threw the champion off of me, and that shouldn't have happened. But as I was on my leg, my knee gave out, okay? My daggone knee gave out, and I could not stand back up, so I planted my knees in the sand on the slope, and he perceived that as weakness, and he came over to me, and he tried to throw me down, but what he didn't know, that I was planted. I put my hand on him, on his back this way and on his front, and I switched my hips and threw him on the ground, and I won. I jumped on him, and I gave him a big fat kiss, and I said, yeah, buddy, you know? And so he looked at his friends, and they were just like, he looked at his friends with this focus like, did you just see what happened to me? And like his chief had his hands over his face, like, I can't believe you lost. And then all the virgins kind of came around me and everything, and it was just like this was wild, man. So that just happened last month, okay? And I decided that I would use this story to talk about how we can use diversity and how can we cultivate people by cultivating our lands, right? There's a lot of things that goes on with this. And I'm just gonna use this story to kind of illustrate in the next segment of this talk how we can do that with using some of the tactics that I did in the fight, right? Because I think they're important, right? So resilience in action. If you guys got paper, pen, or a way to take notes on this, I'm going to give you a lot of golden nuggets over the next about 40 minutes or something like that, right? We're going to talk a lot about these things. So resilience in action, adapting to your terrain. Any farmers out here? Yeah, right. Guess what? Most of us don't have the opportunity to buy the land we want. That's pristine, that has the fencing all set up, that has the water all in place, you know, where we can just walk into it. Most of us don't have that ability. The same thing with indigenous people. You see people that are farming off of cliffs. When I was in Costa Rica, there were people, because of the terrain of the land, they got to farm where they farm, right? And so we have to work within our natural features, whether it's dealing with poor soil, uneven ground, or limited space, right? Farmers, we all learn to adapt no matter where we are, okay? An example of that is on my land in Georgia red soil, this clay. I don't know if the same that you have here. We have a lot of red clay that has been stripped. Our soils have been stripped because of the monocrop. And so instead of me going in there and trying to just, trying to farm things that I can't farm, I kind of chose to farm in ways that are more economically viable within my soil structure. So I had this lady, PhD, I know she comes in and she's telling me how horrible my soils are. And she goes, you got thistles growing here and thistles growing there and your soil structure. And I said, well, okay, then I can grow artichoke. And she's like, artichoke? Yeah, thistles are in the artichoke family, and I live here, and we're like, if you go across the pond, that's like southern Mediterranean, North Africa, Morocco, and that's where artichoke grow. You can't grow artichoke. Well, those are all artichoke, okay? And so I say this to say that sometimes we have to figure out what our low-hanging fruit is on our farm before we start actually getting into other things, right? If there's things that grow naturally in your farm, go ahead and exploit those things. Find your low-hanging fruit no matter where you are. It could be a certain type of peach, a certain type of plum. It can be that you can grow tomatoes really, really great in your soil, or blueberries, or anything that you have. Go ahead and exploit those so that way you can work on other things as your soil starts to develop, okay? We're also going to talk about overcoming physical limitations, right? You know, my knee gave out during this match, right? And so what are the parallels of that? You know, sometimes we face physical or metaphorical setbacks in farming, right? So farming teaches us how to find new ways to work around these limitations, enhancing our resiliency. When I wake up, I feel like the Tin Man every single day. Anybody else feel like that? Okay, man, I mean, it's like, why am I doing this? I ask myself this question, why am I doing this? But when I get up, I know I'm going to make a difference. I know I'm getting out there doing the things that I love to do. And what helps me is that I'm able to create systems based on my limitations, right? So Wells Fargo, they came in and they put in, they put in a huge raised bed system for us. Because as vets, man, we're all broken in some way. Bending over is real hard for us right now. I have no gristle in my back from jumping out of perfectly good airplanes and rucking, you know, X amount of miles like every single day. So those things make it tough. But these raised beds that we were able to get, now we're going to turn those into a whole huge herbal garden that we've donated through the Ag Georgia. I like perennial herbs because I plant them once. That's it. And then we harvest them. And then I can charge $4 and things. I sell my pigs for $4.50 a pound. 250-pound pig is $1,000. $4 for an ounce. 1 pound, we're looking at, what, $64 a pound on herbs. I could probably go ahead and, I mean, wholesale them at $32, you know, per pound. That seems like a lot more sense doing herbs than pigs to me, okay? And not only do I have my community who wants more herbs and medicinal herbs, but our chefs need fresh herbs that they can't come through. So that's a whole new development that we're instituting on the farm because of being broken in some type of way, right? We have to be able to find our low-hanging fruit or even create that space for us to make money on the farm, right? All right, let's go into baiting and strategy on the farm, right? So as in wrestling, strategic planning is key. Choosing the right plants for our environment or using companion planning to deter pests mirrors the tactics, right? My use of baiting the warrior in showed how thoughtful planning can turn perceived weaknesses into strengths, okay? So remember that. You have to plan, you have to be on it. Nature is unforgiving, okay? And so in order to just get those small micro wins, you just gotta be able to plan a step ahead and take notes of the things that aren't working and that are working, all right? Anti-fragility through cultivation. Has anyone heard the word anti-fragility? I've been doing a lot of stoic research, and anti-fragility came up over the last couple of months. And what it means is it is the concept of thriving, improving, or growing stronger with exposure to volatility, randomness, disorder, or stressors. Think about that. You're growing in your pain, right? We can't grow in our comfort. We only grow in our discomfort. And the more comfortable you are, the less you grow. So having the anti-fragility mindset means that you're not going to have the victim mindset. And one of the things that I help our veterans understand is that you can change the dynamic of your brain by stop asking, why is this happening to me, to why is this happening for me? Because when you ask, why is this happening for me, your whole body shifts, your whole chemistry shifts into a way that, that you're looking for the positivity out of the negative. And that is empowering. So I had an opportunity to grow food from my mother's land. It was a collard green that came from my mom's land, from the Kwa people that they call kame. And so I brought that collard in. I tried to go ahead and grow it on my land. And guess what? They bolted in the seed trays, right? Like, I've never seen this before. I tried planting them in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, in the winter. Bolt, 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 bolt. Just amazing. I did it the second year. I said, man, this is crazy. And then I thought about, what can I do to get these seeds to move forward? I didn't give up. Just how do I get these seeds to move forward? The ancient Incas, I just visited Peru not too long ago for the sole purpose of understanding their ancient Incan ways. Anybody heard of the sacred gardens? Right? So the sacred gardens in Peru are these tiered or terrace gardens. And what they did in the empire of the Incans was that they grew food for the people of the lowlands and the people of the highlands by utilizing these tiered gardens. So they would acclimate the seeds for higher altitude and then acclimate them again for lower altitude, right? And so I called my friend down in Melissa. I called her down in Florida. She was at a lower altitude than me, closer towards the where these plants were grown versus where I was. And I said, I need you to grow these collards that I can't have. I'm having problems growing. She said, no problem. She grew those collards out the first year. They went full term as just adult plants. And guess what she did? She sent me those seeds back. Now I was able to grow my first crop of those collards because they've been acclimatized, right? So understanding that we do have indigenous knowledge that's all around us they had their laboratories, but not the type of laboratories that we do for actually producing seeds. Nature is equipped to do the things that we want. We just have to seek it. All right, so learning from failures, right? Every failed crop is a lesson that builds on future successes. This mirrors my approach of learning from each move when I fought the warrior in the wrestling match. It made me stronger and more prepared for acute future decisions. One year, I was growing. I don't grow the most tomatoes, I grow the best tomatoes, right? And so one year I was growing these tomatoes in my hoop house, and we got attacked by every single thing in there. I mean, there was bugs, there was disease, it was super humid, just everything was an epic fail. And I'm just walking down, taking this loss because I can't take anything to market, and I'm just pulling off vines, untwisting the wraps on them, and I'm just, kind of in my thoughts, got the music playing and just saying, all right, this is just the day that I got. And then I walk past I see this one white tomato that's just no blemishes, no disease, no nothing. And it's an old heirloom from Germany. I went, rubbed it, bit into it, and it was so citrusy, sweet with a hint of tartness. And I was like, wow, okay, this is beautiful. But you know what was more importantly? Right down that line, I thought that I lost the whole crop, but what I gained was a fruit of this tomato that was resistant to everything that killed everything, right? And so the next year, this tomato, because of the resistance of everything that we had on our land, actually became the star of the farm. okay? Because I can grow it with less trouble than anything else that I've grown on there. So just because you might see that there's like inevitable loss, look for the win. Look for the win. And for me, that win was this tomato that I couldn't take the market, but it offered me the seeds that were resilient to my land. So not everything is a complete loss if you just look for the things that are winning on your land, and they might be minute, but they're gonna prove super, super huge in the future. All right. Diversity in farming, right? So just as I was able to use diverse set of skills to win, and I didn't tell you guys, right? Yeah, well, you guys know. I'm a United States Army Ranger. He didn't know that. He didn't know that I did jujitsu probably for like 5 years of my life, you know? He didn't understand those type of things. But when we got into fighting, he certainly felt my power, because as he was going down, he said, "Uh-oh," you know, and he knew that he knew that he was gonna lose, right? So, but when we're looking at diversity and we're looking at the things that we need to do, right? My approach to my land is being able to create and mimic a system that Mother Nature has, okay? So when I do forage crop for my sheep, or chickens or turkeys, I'm not putting one type of forage crop out there, because nature doesn't do that. So I do like 7 different crops. We have 3 different clovers. We have 3 or 4 different types of grasses that are blended into those things, because the symbiotic relationship between animals, especially ruminants, and our grasses are that. The grass exists for the ruminants, and the ruminants exist for the grass. And so each particular grass or forage crop creates another different type of healthy bacterial biome within the gut of these animals that then return back into your soils, uplifting your soils. Because of my approach on doing this, of indigenous knowledge and bringing back, I was awarded the 2023 Georgia Conservationist of the Year. I was also awarded the National Conservationist of the Year by bringing back indigenous practices that were showed to me and taught to me, because these people have been around way longer than us. And I'm there as a student, and I've applied these things on my land, which have granted me these awards. I did not set out to gain any awards. I just really wanted to raise pigs and do good barbecue. And then it just led to these type of things, right? But if you're paying attention to your land in the way and really mimicking nature as the teacher for us, then you will be successful. All right. So we're going to talk about farming as a metaphor for personal and community growth, right? A few things as we go down in our notes. Patience and timing, right? If you don't have patience, you cannot be a farmer, okay? Most of the most patient people I know are farmers, because they understand that you might have planned for something, and guess what? Mother Nature's gonna plan for something else, okay? You might have broken hose, you might, there's animal giving birth, there's things that's just out of your control. And what you planned for the week has totally changed, okay? And so that's the mindset that you have to be. You have to be flexible. You have to bend with the wind before you break, okay? Because these are the things that are going to impact our lives a lot, and really make our farming journey much shorter than pleasurable if we don't pay attention to that. All right, nurturing potential. Just as I nurtured my strategy to fruition, farming is about nurturing potential in both plants and people, providing the right environment for growth, right? So our soils and lands should form a symbiotic relationship. One of the things I tell people is that I don't feed my plants. I'm cultivating and nurturing my soil. The microbes in my soil are going to do what I need them to do. I'm even of the idea that our gardens, to go beyond organic, we should be measuring the microbiology in our soils at what rates they are. We should give people an idea or understanding that, hey, when I go buy these carrots or I go buy these kale or collards, that they came from soils that are microbially rich, okay? That forces the big guys to play our game. And they understand that so much that now they are patenting genetically modified microbes to play the same system, to create so much more nitrogen that they would put at the chemical level. And this is dangerous. These things are dangerous. And I urge everyone to advocate for this to not be implemented in our food system. At some point, we got to get political with our food system, even if we don't like politics, but the lobbyists don't care. They just want whoever has the most money to push these ideas. But fooling with Mother Nature in those types of ways is not what we, most people, foresee as a sustainable food system. It will become unsustainable real quick because we don't even understand the billions of microbes in a teaspoon of soil underneath us, and now we're wanting to play God. And so to me, that's unacceptable. All right. Thank you. So we want nature to guide our understanding. And sometimes we have to sit in thought and watch our earth around us, watch what it's doing, listen to it, okay? I tell people who get new land, don't do nothing except get on that land and find where your energy is led to and spend a year on that land, understanding where the sun sets and falls, where the rain holds, okay? Understand your land, get intimate, go out there, look at the stars. That's what me and my vets, that's what we did many and many a nights before we broke soil. Drink beer, eat steaks, and look at the stars, okay? And it was a great time. Because when I was ready to move, I understood that there was a certain place we all gathered. And in that place is now a beautiful pavilion because it already had the energy there before we even did anything. I always knew that this space is going to be the place. And I was doing a John Deere commercial, and they wanted to do some stuff. And I told the guys, hey, I need that pavilion up like right now, you know, and they came in, they did all this stuff. And that pavilion is the heartbeat of the farm, because we spent so much time in that space gathering with our communities, with our families, with fellow military people, and there was a lot of healing that went into that space. So before you even start building, go in with a plan of where your energy leads you into naturally. All right? What's some practical applications? All right, so start small, please, for the life of everyone and all your friends and family. Start small. Y'all laughing because y'all know what I'm talking about. All right, so I tell people and I preach, start a hobby farm. Start a hobby farm. You're not gonna put more into your hobbies than what's allowed, okay? Start a hobby farm. And then if your hobby can take care of itself, guess what? It's a win-win. Because now if you can turn your hobby into a business, you're never working, okay? And you'll love it. Versus going in there, getting a loan, don't have an idea of what is about to happen to you, and you put in all these infrastructures and all this other kind of stuff, and then you're at the mercy of the market where you have to sell things cheaply in order just to pay the bills. That's not how we need to be doing this, folks. I urge everybody to start what they love and start in their passions, because you're going to build your passions. And once you build your passions, you're going to be connected to the things that you love. All right. At that point, it's a lot easier to go to the farm agencies and get a grant or get a loan for the farm agencies, because you already got proof of concept that this works, versus trying to convince them that this will work with no practices in place. So those are the things that I urge, especially on this. Start small, all right? Then we got community involvement, all right? And so our communities need to be involved with our farm. When COVID hit, I was owed about, I would say about $35,000 from my chefs. I got the phone call, John, it ain't coming. I couldn't worry about what he said wasn't coming I started focusing within the next 16 seconds on what we need to do. And already I had a backup plan, which was to go straight towards, run straight towards the, my community, because this crisis is happening. People needed a farm to come to, and we created a system online, and in 2 days, we had everybody that was coming, and I was not prepared for what I saw. On that Saturday, I had Chick-fil-A style lines going all the way down my driveway, split to both roads, and they were coming in, and we had people coming up, going around the big tree in the transition house, and they were parking, and they would have their sign up saying, hey, this is my order. Our vets and volunteers would go inside, they would grab food, would pop the trunk, ready to go. And they were blowing out of there. And I was just standing in the middle of all this chaos, just like, this is so awesome that this is happening. We're feeding our communities. We're bringing them to the farm. And the farm was a safe haven for people who couldn't get out. And we connected with them on the way. That resulted into us doing some amazing things. So because of that, we didn't have time to set up farmers markets and things like that. What we had time for was, as people started coming in and they wanted to kind of get out of the car, just breathe some air, and we did our safe distancing, I kept all my vegetables in the ground. And we had like a sushi style menu that said, hey, I want this, 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 and this. And the volunteers went and picked it for them fresh, as they watched. And that was a beautiful, beautiful thing that you can't get at a grocery store. It was just the connectivity of being able to grab food or have food prepared for you right there out of the dirt. And we would say, oh, we're gonna wash them. They say, no, please, don't wash them. This was the most insane thing where I saw people just love dirt. They just wanted like dirty beets and dirty carrots, and that was great. It was still getting sold for the same price, so it was good. But then something else happened. Elderly people who couldn't come outside wanted to cook for Sunday meals. They would get on FaceTime. And they say, hey, Grandma, look, we're at the farm and we can pick our own vegetables. What do you want? And Grandma would be like, oh, do they have turnips? She's showing the turnips. She said, I want some of this. Grandma wanted the whole farm, the best salesman ever, right? And these people were picking for them, were doing all these things. And it really gave an outlet to people who could not come to the farm, be at the farm, right? So these things were really, came out of necessity during COVID, and they're still our protocol for today, right? So our educational workshops, okay? We have to have educational workshops at our farms. Our farms are the beacon of hope in our communities. And if you work with a grant writer or people that have been doing these things, you're going to find that bringing in community, bringing in young children to teach them lessons like we do a homestead event every year that's wildly successful. Like next week, we're doing called the La Pierre du Mont Boucherie, where we have chefs from all over the world, celebrity chefs, veterans, butchers, farmers that come in, and we do this whole collage of things of being able to put down animals properly. You have the chefs that never seen a whole animal before because they usually get the prime cuts from distribution, and now they see it. And now you have the farmer who's looking there with the safety person that's there looking at it, say, hey, your animal's looking good. Or, dude, you got a parasite problem in the gut lining, and what are you feeding them, and working with them on doing things. And this stuff happens organically in our space. And so it's just amazing how we're able to put all of this stuff together for people. And I encourage anybody with a farm to really make your farm a destination for education, for learning, because the children that are growing up in this space, that's what we have to do. We have to indoctrinate them on the beauty of the farm and why our farms are so important. Sometimes that can also lead to a bad thing. Like in my situation, we were doing the comfy, funky pumpkin patch, okay? And we would have wild pumpkins all over. And the first year it happened where it was like, 300 people, and it was just great. Till 2 years ago, we had 2,000 people at the farm. And it was like, whoa. And last year, I had to, after 8 years of going, I decided to cancel it. And I felt really, really bad because families brought their newborns who were born that year to the first one. And we were watching their pictures for 8 years as they grew up, from sitting on the pumpkin to holding the pumpkins, you know, and it hurt me so bad, but I knew that this wasn't sustainable because of the growth that exceeded what we can do personally. So it's better to go off on a good note than on a bad note, right? Understand that it's a sacrifice to go off on a good note than a bad note. And so we did, and we're gonna start doing some things that we're scaling down with some farm dinners, you know, in the spring and fall where people can still come out and do their pictures and things like that. But you gotta understand that your brand is your brand and you have to protect that at all costs, even if it means scaling back in order to make things happen. All right, guys, who wants to see the fight? All right, we got a video for you. Just a couple of seconds. Yeah. I actually did that, like seriously. Hey guys, so in conclusion, right, I want to talk about a few things, right? Create space that you're connected to, okay? Pave the way to inspire others. Be the steward of restoring diversity in your food system. And be the champion of restoring your lands. Thank you.